What weaknesses should you exploit in a knight versus bishop endgame? Have you ever wondered how to turn the tables in a knight versus bishop endgame? This classic battle of minor pieces has its own unique dynamics. Understanding the strengths and weaknesses of each piece can help you gain the upper hand. Let's start with the bishop. This piece moves diagonally and is limited to squares of one color. If the board is open and your pawns are spread out, the bishop can be very powerful. However, if it gets blocked by its own pawns or those of the opponent on the same color, it becomes less effective. This situation is known as a bad bishop. It is stuck and cannot influence the game as much as it should. Now let's talk about the knight. The knight moves in an L shape and can jump over other pieces, making it quite versatile. Knights shine in closed positions where pawns block long diagonals. They can find outposts, which are squares deep in enemy territory that are hard to attack. Knights can control both light and dark squares, unlike the bishop, which is limited to one color. To exploit weaknesses in a knight versus bishop endgame, keep a few practical points in mind. First, consider the pawn structure and color complex. If you have a bishop, try to place your pawns on the opposite color of your bishop. This keeps your bishop free to move and attack. If you have a knight, aim to fix enemy pawns on the same color as their bishop. This limits the bishop's movement and can create a bad bishop scenario. Next, think about outposts and weak squares. Knights thrive on outposts, especially in the center or near the enemy king. Identify weak squares in your opponent's camp and maneuver your knight to occupy them. Bishops can target weaknesses on both sides of the board if the position is open. Look for pawns or squares that the bishop can attack from a distance. Mobility and coordination are also important. In open positions, bishops are generally stronger. Use your bishop to control key diagonals and support your pawns. In closed positions, knights are often superior. Use your knight to blockade enemy pawns or infiltrate enemy territory. Lastly, don't forget about king activity. Both sides should activate their kings in the endgame. A more active king can support your minor piece and help create threats. In practical terms, if you have a bishop, keep the position open. Avoid locking your pawns on the same color as your bishop. If you have a knight, aim for closed positions. Look for ways to create outposts and restrict the enemy bishop's movement. By understanding how pawn structure affects each piece, you can exploit weaknesses effectively in a knight versus bishop endgame. Use your minor piece to target the opponent's weaknesses, whether that means controlling key squares with a knight or utilizing a bishop's long-range power in open positions. Always consider the activity of your king and the placement of pawns to maximize your advantage.